Please would you stand for the gospel reading. The gospel reading is Matthew chapter 2, beginning with the first verse. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And assembling all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet. Then Herod summoned the wise men secretly and ascertained from them what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, 'Go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word, that I too may come and worship him.' When they had heard the king, they went their way. And lo, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came to rest over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by another way. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And the greatest of these is myrrh. I don't know about you, when I hear the story of the wise men, the magi, there's always some comic element in it for me. Churches I served before I came here always had a Christmas pageant, and there were dads that were pressed into duty, and they wore bathrobes and Burger King crowns and tried to look wise and wound up looking a little bit silly. We had the pageant here. I've told some of you about this before on Christmas Eve a number of years ago, where we read the story, and the shepherds come up, and Mary and Joseph come up, and so as the wise men were coming up, Steve James was reading, and when he got to the point where he said, "And they fell down and worshiped him," one of our magi fell down. And everyone was polite. No one laughed out loud except me. Just couldn't help it. I think about these gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The comedian Eddie Izzard, I don't know if you know him, he imagines this moment that they come in with the gifts, and the response is sort of, gold, frankincense, myrrh, ooh. Or in the life of Brian, the Holy Family responds to the gifts by, "Come back another time, but forget the myrrh next time." Myrrh in the ancient world was embalming fluid. What a great gift. Did you get that for Christmas? Some embalming fluid. Thank you very much. It's salve that you would put on a wound. Myrrh is about suffering. Suffering at Christmas. We don't like to think about such things. I don't know how it goes at your house. We have the opening of the gifts, and a lot of times the gifts are just wonderful things you're so excited to get. And we try to give people good things, but then there's always some clunky gift, and you open it, and you know how that goes. You open the gift, and you hold up this thing, and you're puzzled, but you keep your face organized, and you smile, and you say, "Thank you." And in your heart, you're thinking, "It's so big. Do they think I'm fat? It's so weird. Can I return it? It's a lump of coal. Can I re-gift it?" It's just always a clunker. And in the Stockton family, my in-laws, we always get together on Christmas Day, and all the nieces and one nephew and my son get together, and we exchange gifts, and we have a song. We have a family song, and we need to change our family song. It's really unfortunate, but it's been going on so many years, I don't think we can get it changed. What happens is after the last gift is open, everyone on cue, without a leader, jumps in and begins to sing, "Merry Christmas, everybody, you don't always get everything you want." And we so need a new song. But you don't always get everything you want. If you think about the unwrapping of your life, if you will, right? You unwrap your life over time, and there's some cool things. You're like, oh, I'm so glad I got this. But then there's always a clunker in there, isn't there? And as you unwrap your life, you don't always get everything that you want. And as you unwrap your life, you get some things that you most decidedly do not want. I had a friend a year ago on Christmas Eve was in his doctor's office. And the doctor said, it's malignant, and there's not really anything we can do. An unwanted gift. Think about unwanted gifts. The other night, Lisa and I went down to Blumenthal and saw the Book of Mormon. That was great fun, of course. And the first two people from the church we ran into basically said, I didn't expect to see my minister here. And there we were. And the Book of Mormon, it has such crude, crass, awful humor in it. And what it's about is there's some Mormon missionaries who go to Uganda, right? And most of them, they're sharp young men, but there's this one kind of goofball of a Mormon missionary whose name is Arnold Cunningham. He doesn't quite get Mormon theology. He hasn't really read the Book of Mormon. And he's really inept. But what happens to these missionaries in Uganda is they're having no success. They have 0 baptisms, and they're very anxious about this because they're just spending their lives, they're having no converts. Well, Arnold Cunningham, who's not the best Mormon, he goes out and he starts meeting the Ugandans, and he listens to what's really going on with them, what their real problems are, and he doesn't really know what's in the Book of Mormon, so he starts making up answers that actually are very helpful to the people. And he gets a lot of people baptized, and he becomes the envy of the other Mormon missionaries. Trying to think of something that actually meets the needs of people. I have a friend who is an atheist. We're at a book club together, and he says he's an atheist. He doesn't want to have anything to do with the church because he says the church is obsessed with the afterlife and isn't really interested in the real problems that people have. And I want to resist that all the time. We do not want to be a church that is believed to be not interested in the real problems that people have. And so I want us to think now about the real problems that all of us deal with. Actually, the biggest problems we deal with in secret, privately. They're the things you don't really talk about in public. The secrets that we carry, the relationships we have that are broken, our heartbreaks, our failed loves, what goes wrong between parents and their children. Sometimes in sermons I'll mention the word anxiety. And when I say the word anxiety, about half of you lean forward like, yeah? Depression, dementia. I don't know about you, just in my circle, I thought about it preparing for the sermon. In my family and immediate circle of closest friends, we got a lot of stuff going on. There's got to be loads of stuff I don't know anything about. Have one friend, he's just not sure that he's going to be able to get out of bed tomorrow because he barely got out of bed today. Have another friend so riddled with anxiety he can barely cope at work. My father's wife is a lovely woman. Her mind has turned on her. She doesn't know us any longer, and she's combative, a bit of a peril to herself and to others. We all have this at some level. It's a spectrum from just kind of garden variety anxiety to really severe mental illness. What do we do about this? I mean, what does God have to do with it? I love it on Christmas Eve when we're in here at night, and at the end of the service, we sing Silent Night, and everybody raises their candles. And at the one level, it's just a pretty thing. Oh, it's so pretty. It is pretty, but when I see that happen, I think of it as sort of a revolt against the darkness, a protest against the darkness. There is darkness, but the light of God has come into the world, and perhaps even a flicker of that light might actually banish at least some of the darkness. I think about it in the Bible. There's actually a lot of this in the Bible. I don't know anything about this, but I wonder. Mary gave birth to Jesus, and what was she doing the next few days? We tend to think, oh, Mary gave birth to Jesus. The next few days, she's just praising God and fielding gifts from Magi and talking with the shepherds and just having a grand time. But I wonder if she's actually like a lot of mothers that I've actually seen close up in the days after childbirth. but it can be kind of hard. Some suffer what's called postpartum depression. You're supposed to be like really happy, but there's this cloud that settles in. Did Mary have any of that? Mary. King Saul. He was a great warrior, Israel's first great king, but he battled some darkness in his head that would get him so down, and nothing would help him except when David would come and play the harp, and that would ease his agony for just a few moments. Families in the Bible are interesting, aren't they? Is your family dysfunctional? Don't answer that. If you think there's no dysfunction in my family, report to me after the service. I'll help you clarify some things. We all have just weird dysfunction in our families somewhere. You've just been through it at Christmas. I know you know. But if you think you have dysfunction in your family, sometimes your church family is just... If you think you have dysfunction in your family, look at a family like Jacob's in the Bible. He's the forefather of the people of God of Israel. The dysfunction in his family will put yours in the shade. Thank you very much. Jesus, many of the people he heals are people who have something wrong with them that we would send them to a psychiatrist today. And I think about the Apostle Paul. He's all the time saying, do not be anxious. He says it so much, I wonder if he's not a guy who himself suffered anxiety. Do not be anxious. The question that I always have is, what kind of church are we going to be? We want to be a church that's pleasing to God and that's helpful to people. What kind of church are we going to be? You know, when somebody in our church has cancer, we at Myers Park are outstanding. We are excellent when somebody has cancer. You know, like word comes down, oh, so-and-so's got cancer. Oh, we have prayer chains. They get prayer blankets. We bake casseroles and take them by, and when people see you or the family, they hug. We're really good at that. But what happens when somebody says, my wife is bipolar? Like we don't bake any casseroles. We might say a prayer. I wonder if we want to hug the person. We kind of avert our gaze, and maybe even if somebody's struggling with something, we kind of hope they just sort of stay home. They should stay home. That's a good place for them. If they're struggling with some kind of difficulty, they should be home. They should be home. I read a book in preparation for the series that we're embarking on, and this person said that a lot of people deal with stuff, and it's actually hard, the way she put it, it is hard to be blanketed in the grace of Jesus when you have to pretend in church. I don't want our church to be a place where people pretend. We do it all the time, and I understand it. But you know how it goes. There's a question that you get asked every time you come to church. People see you, and they say, what do they say? They say, how are you? And what's the correct answer? You can do better than that. How are you? Fine. And you got to pretend in church. The saddest words that I think have ever been said to me is a couple years ago. I ran into a woman in the Harris Teeter, and I hadn't seen her in church in a while, but I miss that sometimes because I can't see everybody. I miss people in services. But I said to her, I said, I don't recall seeing you in church lately. I've missed you. And she said, well, yeah, she said, the reason I've been gone is I'm just really struggling with some difficult issues. She said, when I get better, I'll be back. I thought, shudder. This should be the place where all of us come, because we're all of us struggling, having difficulties. We all have heartbreak. This should be a place of some healing. God wants to be a healer. All of this takes some effort and some investment. By the way, we have a guy coming in 8 days to talk to us named Peter Scazzero. We're really lucky to get him. He's a famous guy. He travels all over the world. I had to pull some strings to get him to come here. And what I love about Peter Scazzero, I've invited a lot of people to come talk. What was interesting is when I called, I finally got him on the phone, and we agreed on a date, and then he said, I'll come on one condition. I thought he was going to tell me what his speaking fee was. No. What he said was, I'll come on one condition, and that is you and your staff have to do a lot of work before I come, and then your congregation has to do a lot of work after I've been there. No one says this. When you invite a good talker, they say, yes, I'll come. And then they come and they give a good talk, and we say, oh, she was such a good talker. And then we go home and nothing has really changed. But Peter Scazzero wants change and health and healing. So he said the staff has to do some work. So he made us meet in groups and work through all his material. And so we had to sit together and bare our souls and talk about stuff you don't normally talk about. And I found it to be really helpful and hopeful and healing. It was really good. And we're going to ask you to do the same thing. It's some hard work. But remember, even Herod said to the wise men, search diligently for the child. If you're going to find the Christ child, you have to search diligently. Too often we think we can just waltz along in our lives. Then we have trouble. We'll fire up a 911 prayer to God. Maybe that'll help. But no, we have to search diligently. We have to develop some strength of soul so that we can understand and deal with things and fend off difficulties and cope with them and grow and understand what God's presence is like when we face the real problems of life. We give God our gold. We're always asked you to give God your gold, frankincense. I'm thinking about this offering of myrrh. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? Is that in church, I think God wants us to offer our myrrh to each other and to God. When you offer your myrrh to another person, it's actually very, very interesting. I found this to be the case. Now, you can't bleed all over the sidewalk when you're just passing somebody in the hallway, but I find very often that when I'm with someone, if I take the risk of saying, I am really struggling with some things, and it's about to get the better of me. Once in a while, somebody will say, dude, what's wrong with you? But that's pretty rare. Usually, if I say that, the response I get is, well, I do too. And I thought I was alone. And then you have a bond, and you have a deep relationship, and it matters, and you care about each other, and you have real compassion and real understanding. We offer our gift of myrrh. Instead of being fine all the time, we share our brokenness, we share our struggles, we share that we love someone who's going through something that just seems to be unspeakable. But it's not unspeakable in God's eyes. God is love. God is present. God is a healing balm. To offer our myrrh to God. When I was a little kid, I used to go to church with my grandparents in this Baptist church. They used to sing this hymn, give your best to the master. I think that's totally wrong. I mean, yeah, give your best to the master. That's fine. Give your wounds to the master. Give your struggles to the master. That's the way to heal. And whatever it is that bedevils you, that you struggle inside, you may need to go to a doctor, you may need to go to a therapist. Those are great things. But we also need to go to God. There's some mystery with God. There's some special power of walking through that closely with Jesus. There is some power in prayer in all of that. I didn't know how to end the sermon. I wrote two different endings. I'll tell you what both of them are. First one goes like this. Today is the 11th day of Christmas. Or that song, 5 golden rings for... Anyway, the 11th day of Christmas, it's 11 pipers piping. That's interesting. The organ has, on cue, been piping. Praises to God today. 11 pipers. We have 2 playing over there today. Pipers pipe. The 11th day of Christmas. If you think about the journey of the Magi, they arrive on the 12th day of Christmas. If you're on a long journey and you're on the 11th day to arrive on the 12th day, where are you? You are close, but you are not there yet. And I wonder if for many of us in our religious life, you've been doing a lot of good religious things, but do you ever feel like you're close, but you haven't quite gotten there? Maybe this is the year that you actually go there. You search diligently for the child. That's one ending. The other one goes like this. Matthew 2, pretty interesting. The Magi come and they give their gold, frankincense, and the greatest of those, their myrrh. And then they get ready to go, and Matthew says, and they departed by another road. Now, that may be totally innocuous. When we go to Winston-Salem to visit family, we can come home by 77 or we can come home by 85. It's just another way to go. But I think there's more to it than that. I think there's some subtle hint that after the Magi have had an encounter with Jesus, they do not go on the old road that they have been on. They take a new road. They go by another way. I want to invite all of us this year to take a new road in our diligent search for the Christ child. I want you to come here, Peter Scazzaro. Some of you never come to our Monday night programs. I want you to come to this one. We're going to have small groups. I know a lot of you, you've never come to any of our small groups. You may think I'm busy, or you may think I'm not a group kind of person. I can tell you this, I am not a group kind of person. I'm slow to sign up to be in a group. But I've been in a group, and it's been really helpful to me. I'm going to be sending out emails. If you don't get them, I want you to sign up for them. I'm going to be sending you text messages. That may just send a shiver up your spine. The good virtue of that is I can't be so long-winded. It's just a text message. Right? And you sign up for it. I mean, you got your phone now. You can do it now. You go to the 2 and you enter the address instead of whoever you usually text, 313131, and the message is EHS. And you start getting texts. And all that'll be is just a little reminder of the day, during the day of the journey that we're on and who you really are. I need that during the day because I don't know about you, during my day, work at the church. I forget. I get distracted. I get confused. A cloud of darkness settles over my head. I need some light. I need some hope. I need a word of life. I hope that this will be the year that we'll think about the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh and know that the greatest of these really is the myrrh. It really is the way to life. We're close. We're almost there. Let this be the year that we search diligently and truly find each other and Jesus.